The topic of equality keeps popping up, so this week it gets equal coverage as a big idea. We all know the phrase, all men are created equal, and you may dislike the phrase because of the word men or the word created, but there's no dispute that all humans, however they got here, are worthy of equal consideration and respect. So let's just stipulate, first, that wherever you look, society suffers from systemic inequalities. And so, second, that something must be done. Governments have allowed or even promoted policies that have served to unjustly entrench inequality on the basis of skin color, ethnicity, class, sex, sexual orientation, religion, and ability. What shall we do about it? Partly because last week's headliner was a leading progressive thinker, John Rawls, today we concentrate on an influential conservative thinker, Edmund Burke. Burke was an Irish contemporary of Mary Wollstonecraft, David Hume, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau's. He is sometimes overlooked, but to our peril. Know this, in 1790, early on in the French Revolution, Burke published a carefully reasoned explanation of why that abrupt push for equality was going to end disastrously. Few people believed him at the time, but tragically, he was proven all too prescient. Here's the gist of Burke's two major arguments against change. First is the communitarian argument. We keep saying in this class that no single political value overrides all others. And Burke stresses this point about equality. It is too bad if our society perpetuates unequal wealth, health care, and education. That's how his argument goes. But we should not underestimate the moral value of its other features, such as stable community. Our schools, neighborhoods, churches, places of employment, and of course our families provide us with our sense of who we are and how we ought to behave. Too much change, too quickly, can render people morally rootless, stripping away the ethical reinforcement and accountability that familiar institutions provide. Second is the unintended consequences argument. The first time any of us tried to pull a loose thread out of a sweater was also the last time. You may know the Weezer song, "If you want to destroy my sweater, hold this thread as I walk away." Our society has been woven together over a long period of time. There were, the argument goes, good reasons for the way it was woven at any given time, even though today we're not even aware of many of the linkages, much less the reasons for them, until it's too late. Well-intentioned attempts, for example, to address drug abuse by increased punishment of drug users have unexpectedly amplified the inequality of the racial makeup of our prisons. The point: making a change to improve society in one place risks destroying the whole sweater. There's nothing more admirable than the enthusiasm of undergraduates who are outraged by our society's systemic inequalities and are raring to set things right. If that is you, then what do you do with Burke? Well, I recommend that you don't let him stop you. It should be evident that these are not really arguments against change. They are arguments against mindless change. But I strongly recommend that you let him slow you down. Slow you down to think deeply about how to foster mindful change. Take the communitarian argument. Community values are not always moral values. What about communities that rely on hatred or elitism to maintain their borders? And community exits do not always result in rootlessness. Who among us is not drawn to put down new roots when we find a group where kindness and toleration prevail? In short, preparing new soil, which is rich in these moral qualities, is every bit as necessary as clearing away the old toxic soil. And take the unintended consequences argument. If my house has termites, I can sit by idly out of fear that I might cause even more unanticipated structural damage. Or at the opposite extreme, I can blindly strike out at the termites in my rage. But if I care deeply about living out my life in a sound home, I am likely to seek out the advice of top pest control and structural experts, and then move to eradicate them thoughtfully with a view to the best long-term residential outcome for my family. When it comes to systemic inequality, Burkeans may make the mistake of underappreciating the inequality part. But those who are pushing for change must not make a comparable mistake of underappreciating the systemic part. And that's the big idea for week 7.